Very fascinating woman named Betty Metzger, and she's written the book called The Burglary, The Discovery of J. Edgar Hoover's Secret FBI. She's written a couple other books, too. One is called Winds of Change, and Framed, Winds of Change Framed, and another one is Women at Work. And she's from New York, I think Connecticut, I believe, the home of Donald Trump. Oh, we were just talking up there about Donald Trump. We can't believe it. I'm going to have a heart attack here tonight. But Betty, are you there, my friend?
I am.
So, Betty,
very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. We've been trying to get this for a while. I've been going to your Facebook page trying to book this. Betty, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, and then we'll get into this whole story about the burglary, about these activists burglarized the FBI headquarters and stole documents out of there and uncovered the old COINTEL program.
Yeah. Well, I'm a journalist, and I taught journalism for a while also. I started out as a daily reporter at a small paper, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, the Tribune Democrat, which was actually a Republican newspaper, despite that name. I worked there, and then I went to Philadelphia, and I worked for the Evening Bulletin. And it's interesting when you later see how your contacts early on led to things that you did later. When I was in Philadelphia, my main assignment was that I was supposed to be covering religion. But many of the people in the anti-war movement at that time were from religious organizations, the Berrigan brothers among them, sure. But also other various groups from Jewish, Protestant, Catholic faith were involved in leading the anti-war movement. So it was at that time that I met some of the people who later became significant in telling the story of the burglary. And then after Philadelphia, I went to Washington. I arrived there in the very beginning of 1970 as a reporter at the Washington Post. And it was while I was there that the burglars sent me the files that they had stolen from the FBI office.
Oh, they fed you, you said?
They sent me, yeah.
They sent you?
They sent me. After the burglary occurred on the night of March 8, 1971, there were 8 of them, and they went out to a farmhouse on a Quaker conference ground that was about 30 miles from Philadelphia, quite remote. And they would go there after their day jobs every day and read the files. And then after they had done that for about 10 days and had collated them and chosen the ones that they wanted to send out, they had them organized in packets. And they sent the first packet to 5 different people. And I was one of those 5 people. And I was a reporter at the Washington Post at the time.
Okay, wow. So did you get a call first, or you just get an envelope in the mail?
No. The burglars were very smart, wise burglars. They planned very carefully. And while the fact that they weren't caught, despite the fact that 200 and some FBI agents were immediately assigned to try to find them, and an intense search that went on for 5 years, one can say that the incompetence of the FBI in that search was very important to the fact that they were never caught. But it's also true that they were very smart. They were people who wore gloves at all times, and they would have never called anybody to say anything about this.
Okay, so you get like a brown envelope with, I suppose, no return address on it, right?
Well, yes, there was a return address on it, actually. It said Liberty Publications, Media, Pennsylvania. And there was no such thing, but I had no way of knowing that. But it struck me as a little unusual. And so when I arrived at work, it was a Tuesday morning, and I found that package. It stuck out from other PR releases that filled my mailbox. And so I did open that envelope right away. And there was a cover letter. And the cover letter said, and the other 4 people had received the same cover letter, by the way.
Okay.
And it was a cover letter explaining that on the night of March 8th, a group of them who called themselves, it's a wonderful name, they called themselves the Citizens Commission to Investigate the FBI. And that the Citizens Commission had broken into this small FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania, and removed every file in the office. And that they had done this because they thought that the FBI, as an arm of the government, was possibly, likely, in their opinion, suppressing dissent. They were strong activists against the war, and of course that was what was most on their mind, and also the civil rights movement. As it turned out, many of them had been involved in the civil rights movement, going south every summer. But they had no evidence, and this was their motivation, and it's really important. People say, well, how in the world could a group of people decide to risk decades in prison, whole life away from their family, those who had children? They were motivated by what the leader of the group had described as a crime that he thought was taking place, and that crime being the suppression of dissent, which he thought was so precious. And he thought that if Americans knew that their dissent was being suppressed by the government, that they would be very upset. Now, to understand that, I think it's important to realize that J. Edgar Hoover was an iconic hero of Americans, while a lot of activists at that time had suspicions about whether or not he was spying and suppressing dissent. The country as a whole adored him. He was truly one of the most popular people in the country, and at one time he had even considered running for president. But Bill Davidon, the leader of the group, a physics professor at Haverford College, Bill thought that if this was happening, people would be upset about it and they'd want something done. And that turned out to be the case.